Hey folks, Ted here today with Exped and the Exped outer space. This is a quick setup video on the outer space, both for the 2 and the 3, same pole structure, so it's easy to do. I'm going to walk you through what's going on here. First of all, know that the outer space is an incredibly spacious 2-person or 3-person tent. Has an incredibly big vestibule that can be used in a number of different modes. And by the way, before I pull it out of the stuff sack, we have a few modes listed on the stuff sack here, and we also have a video following this one that you should take a look at just to see all the different configurations you can work with in there. This is an exoskeleton tent, and that means that the pole structure is on the outside. When you pull the whole tent and pole structure out of the stuff sack, it's going to look like it's in 2 pieces. You're going to have the tent, fly, and body, and you're going to have the poles. This is a little unusual in that if you've never set up an exoskeleton tent before, it's worth doing it at home once so you're not doing it in the rain and the dark for your first time. It's easy to do, but you should probably understand how it works first. So I lay the tent out, and you'll notice that I have everything already put together here. The inner tent's already on the inside of the fly, and it remains attached to the fly the entire time. So I lay the whole fabric, inner tent, and fly out. And then I'm going to go ahead and assemble the pole array. The pole array is held together by these micro hubs and bungee cords. So it effectively comes out as a single pole. And that makes it nice because you don't have to worry about losing anything. Now, in the process of assembling these, I lay it out on the top of the fly. Ideally, you're going to go ahead and assemble each junction and carefully make sure it's assembled and not just barely clipped together. It'll have a tendency to snap together anyhow, but if you can take the extra time to make sure it's all put together, it will work really, really well when it's all set up. So there is the vestibule pole assembled. And now I'm assembling the tent structure poles. The poles are all yellow with 2 exceptions. At either end of the tent, there's a red segment, and that's going to fit into the red webbing so that you know how it's all coded out, and it makes setup easier when you're dealing with a set of poles like this. I'll show that to you in more detail in just a second. I'm just going to lay the poles out so you can see what the structure looks like right here. Vestibule poles, ridge poles, tent poles. So back to the tent. At the back corner of the tent, there's some red webbing with a grommet. Red pole segment goes into the grommet, gets assembled here. And the same thing at this end. Red webbing with grommet at the end of the tent. Now I'm going to take the next pole and just assemble it at the other corner of the tent. In this case, it's a piece of green webbing. The same thing down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and assemble or place the vestibule poles. And you'll notice there's a piece of yellow webbing with a grommet here. The same thing at the other end. Now we've assembled the pole structure. Pretty straightforward, but you can see what that's supposed to look like. There are 2 additional grommets, and they're on the outside of the fly. There's a grommet at the peak of this vestibule. Attach that there. And a grommet at the peak of this vestibule goes at the other pole end. Now, everything else on the tent is a clip. Really fast, really easy. Just going to go ahead and clip the pole structure, clip the fly to the pole structure. Again, we talked about the dry pitch, or mentioned the dry pitch, but it really illustrates. If it was raining right now, the inner tent is totally protected from the elements because it's clipped into the inside of the fly. I'm just going around the tent and clipping it to the poles. Now if it was a little bit breezier and I didn't want the tent to move away while I'm setting it up, I would go ahead and put a stake in the corner right here just to lock it in place while I'm assembling this. Not dealing with a lot of wind right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you the pitching aspect. Obviously it makes sense to always stake out your tent, and sort of minimum stakes in this particular scenario would be a stake at the front vestibule and at the back vestibule, but I would recommend always staking out all the anchor points just because it gives you a more stable tent and it gives you more tension on the fly in the long run. So there's the actual pole structure and the fly setup. Now I'm going to go ahead and place a stake or two in so you can see how that pitches. And at the other end of the pole bag, down here, we actually have the stakes in that area. And now I'm going to go ahead and rock that in there, tension the fly, and then put in the back vestibule stake. And this is sort of, again, minimum staking that I would do. I'd go ahead and put stakes in all of the webbing loops at the bottom. Again, that gives the fly good tension. But just so you can see how it's pitched. Obviously, huge vestibule. Watch our next video for the modes and the way that you can really use this tent when you're in the field. See you out there.